Hi everybody, welcome to the Baroque Violin Shop. My name's Mike and today I'm talking about some basic instrument care. We're going to start with the violin and the viola. The piece that you put on the back of the instrument is called the shoulder rest, and this needs to be adjusted properly to fit the instrument so it won't fall off, but not be so tight on the instrument that it tears up the shoulder rest or breaks it. The feet are adjustable. Certain styles of shoulder rests fit only certain size instruments, but others are adjustable like this one, so the feet can be adjusted to fit different sizes. You want these to be positioned just close enough to hold onto the instrument, but not so close that it tears them up. The rubber on the feet is being torn off. The backing is pulling away from the base because having the feet set too tight on the instrument causes a lot of excessive tension on the piece, and that's what tears them up and breaks them. I've even seen these feet completely broken off before. And that can also, if the rubber is missing off the foot here, it can start gouging the wood, scraping the finish off the instrument, which is not good for the instrument. The other thing about the shoulder rest is it's always important to remove this when you're storing the instrument in the case. Leaving it on the back of this when it's put away is very dangerous for the instrument because with it lifted up like this, when you shut the lid of the case, some cases the style won't permit this to happen, other styles will, but when you have the lid shut, it's putting pressure on the top of the bridge here because then the bridge is contacting the inside of the lid of the case. So that pressure down on this can cause the bridge to fall down. The bridge is not attached to the instrument, it's just the tension of the strings that hold it on there. So this can be pushed over and fall down, and if that does happen, then the sound post that's inside the instrument can also fall down because it's not attached either. It's just wedged into place. And if that falls down, you're going to hear a noticeable difference in the quality of the sound of your instrument. It's going to sound terrible. And you'll hear it rolling around in there. Don't take it out and throw it away. Take it to a repair person to have it put back into place. So you always want to remove the shoulder rest from the back of the instrument when you pack it up, because the other risk of damage to the instrument by leaving that on the back of it is that if the case were to be dropped with the instrument raised up like this and the bridge touching the lid, when it hits the ground or the floor, that impact can not only break the bridge but also push it right into the top of the instrument, punch a hole right through the top of your instrument. And of course you don't want that to happen. That's a very serious situation. That's really bad damage, which is a big repair. So you don't want that to happen. The next thing is the bow. The hair of the bow needs to be tightened to play, but you don't want to over tighten it. For instance, this bow here is way too tight. The tightness of this should only be about that much, roughly the width of your finger here, right at the center of the bow between the hair and the stick. Keeping a bow tight all the time is bad for it because it will cause the hair to overstretch, and a bow with overstretched hair is just a lot harder to play with. But more importantly, it can cause the stick to warp. For instance, on this cello bow, the stick should be perfectly straight. This one's bowing out this way because the stick is warped. Now a bow stick always has some sweep to it this way. That's natural, but you don't want it to bow out this way or out this way. A bow with a warped stick like that is, again, very difficult to play with. You won't be able to get as good a sound out of your instrument with one of these. And once the stick is warped, essentially the bow is ruined. You really can't fix that. So you want to be sure to always loosen the hair when you put the bow away when you're done playing. Another thing that can happen to the bow is hairs can break. That's just part of the normal wear and tear of the bow as you're playing. That can occur. So if one breaks, you don't want to yank it out this way because that could pull more hair out. You want to take it back the opposite direction and break it off this way if you don't have scissors handy to cut it off. And the other thing about the bow is the bow will not work unless you have rosin on the hair. Hair is too slick and smooth to make any sound out of the instrument. So the rosin, which is made out of tree sap, when this is applied to the hair, makes the hair sticky and gives it the grip that it needs to make the strings vibrate to make the sound. So the amount of rosin you have on the hair will have effect on how good and how much sound you can get out of the instrument. So you have to have a sufficient quantity of rosin on the hair, but you don't want to get too much on there. Too much is not good either. But the thing about rosin is being made out of tree sap, when it's been hardened into a dry block like that, is very brittle, very fragile. If you happen to drop this, it's going to shatter, just like glass. The other thing about rosin is that it will stick to the strings and get on the top of the fingerboard and the top of the instrument. It's not good to leave that rosin on there. You don't want rosin accumulating on the strings. That affects the sound of the instrument. And rosin accumulating on the wood will eventually harden and get down into the finish of the wood, and that affects the vibrational properties of the wood, which then affects the sound. So you always want to dust that off with a cleaning cloth of some sort, like a smooth, soft type fabric material, nothing coarse, so that you then just lightly dust the instrument, the strings and the instrument, to keep that clean. The next thing is the cello and the bass. For these instruments, when a cello or a bass player is not holding their instrument, they just lay it on its side, of course on the floor, but I'm placing it on the table right now just so you can see what I'm talking about. That's the safest thing to do. If you stand it against something like a table or a chair or a wall, that is just extremely risky, because it can very easily just slide over on its own or get kicked over. And if that happens, when it hits the floor, it's probably going to break. So the best thing to do is just lay it on its side, and that'll keep it safe. So I hope these tips help you get more out of your instrument experience and enjoy playing. And thanks for watching.